with our remarks, I too, I put in a call to Father Cardinal Dolan this morning, and just want to mourn the loss of the Holy Father. He was an amazing man. He cared so much about those who were downtrodden and those who were down on their luck. He affected the whole world. It didn't matter if you were Catholic or not. Just about everybody in the country, our country, and the world was moved by the Holy Father's wonderful, wonderful personality, by his caring, by his leadership of the church, and reminding us that we are all one family. So he was a great man, and we miss him. And I'd like, with everybody's indulgence, to have 30 seconds of silence in memory of one of the most wonderful people who I think has ever been put on the face of this globe. Thank you. We miss him dearly already, and it was a blow and a shock. Not totally unexpected, but still, when he passes, it just hits you so hard that the world will be missing a great man and a great conscience, a great holder of the light. Okay, now today we're here to talk about something a little more direct and mundane, not mundane if you will, but that is more practical, if you will. And we're joined first by Dominic Pernomo, and he's the owner of Yono's, a well-known, beautiful restaurant here in the Capital Region. We have, as you heard from our mayor, we have both our state senator, Pat Fahey, and our assembly member, Gabriela Romero, here. Thank you, wherever you both are, for coming. Thank you, you always do. Mark Egan, our great head of the Chamber of Commerce. And because the tariffs affect so much of what's happening in the Capital Region, and more in the Capital Region than most other places because we're so close to Canada, we're joined also by one of the great manufacturing companies, the head of one of the great manufacturing companies here in the Capital Region, Latham Pool, Scott Rajeski, and he will talk. They employ over 300 people here, and I think close to 1,000, Scott, in the country. They're the largest pool installer. You can live in Florida or California, but the Capital Region is doing a good job for you up here when you install a pool in your home, and he's here as well. Okay, so, look, nowhere, this fight against tariffs is something we are pursuing, we are fighting across the country. This week, Leader Jeffries and I have dubbed National Cost of Living Week in Action, Week of Action. National Cost of Living Week of Action. And senators and congressmen throughout the country will be in their states, in their districts, letting people know how these costs are terrible and how we have to really repeal so many of these horrible tariffs that are going to hurt the pocketbooks of every American. And not just hurt the pocketbooks insignificantly. It is outrageous, but the average American will pay about $5,000 more a year if the Trump tariff tax stays in effect. And we're making an all-out effort, an all-out fight to repeal it. And we're urging our Republican colleagues here in the Capital Region and everywhere else to let their congressmen and senators know we cannot have these tariffs. So the first way it hits people is their costs. The cost of buying groceries, up. The cost of buying clothing, up. The cost of gasoline, up. The cost of buying a car, up. The cost of taking a vacation, up. Everything. Because so much of our country in this interconnected world depends on imports of one sort or another, everything is affected. And as I said, the average Capital Region family, the average New York family, will pay about $5,000 more a year for the things they've always been accustomed to buying. And what does that mean? It means they cut back. So buying that new car, better not do that. I'm paying more for meat and fish and potatoes and eggs. Better not take that trip cross country to see our kids. I'm paying too much already here. So it just slows down the economy in every way, and we're pointing out many of the ways. And today, I'm particularly focusing on restaurants. Now, just to give you some numbers, more than 14,000 New Yorkers across the capital region, 4,400 in Albany, are in industries directly targeted by the tariffs. But there are tens of thousands more. That doesn't include the tourist industry. This before I get to the restaurants. This doesn't, well, the restaurants are affected, of course, by the tourist industry. What percentage in the summer, say, of your customers are from Canada?
A fair amount. They definitely come down to Saratoga and
Yep.
explore the region.
Yep. So it affects many more. Tens of thousands of people are directly affected by the Trump tariff tax. So many people. And one of the places that is affected is our restaurants. And that's why we're here at Yono's, a well-known, delicious food place that people from the capital region have come to for a long time. So this isn't just a problem for Wall Street. This is a problem for Main Street. Although even Wall Street is affected, it's estimated that the average person in America could have seen already $50, $70, even $100,000 of loss in their IRAs. And if you're about to retire, that really, really is bad news. What were you going to do? I thought I'd put that part of that money away to pay my rent, or pay my mortgage, or to go on that little vacation to see the kids. So it's a problem for Main Street. It affects every family in the capital region, every business in the capital region, every restaurant, and every manufacturer. Second, I'm here to say enough is enough. And I'm announcing that when the Senate returns, we will force a vote on a resolution to end Trump's tariff war once and for all. Again, I will be forcing a vote, which we're entitled to do under the rules of the Senate, to eliminate, to end this Trump tariff tax once and for all. And American families, restaurants, manufacturers will be able to breathe a sigh of relief if we can get that done. And I'll get more into that in a minute. So let's talk about the restaurants. Yono's restaurant is known for giving top-notch American food with the taste of Indonesia. These tariffs are a catastrophe for Yono's. First, all the spices they need, other specialty ingredients as well. You know, Indonesian food contains coconut milk, lemongrass, lime leaves, palm sugar, and chili. None of those are made in the United States. So it's not that when you buy them overseas, you're supplanting some American company from doing this. They're not available here. So the only choice that Yono's has is raise prices. They don't want to do it. They don't want to turn away customers, but they have no choice. Or cut back, hire fewer employees, have fewer delicious entrees on the menu. Very bad. And the famous dishes they have, lamb, Indonesian fried rice, all depend on things that come from out of this country. Yono's, my dad was a small businessman. He didn't have as nice a business as yours. He was an exterminator. He probably hired one.
Integral to the business.
My sister once sent him a Father's Day card. He passed away a few years ago. But my sister once sent him a Father's Day card that said, "Dad, we're the only family that associates the smell of DDT with love." Because he came home reeking of the chemicals. Mark Egan always laughs at my jokes. In any case, you know, the Indonesian fried rice, the famous lamb, all come from ingredients overseas. This is, and he works on a thin margin. They don't even know how they can serve or how to price the menu, because no one knows exactly when these tariffs are going to be implemented, how they're going to be implemented, etc. Because there's chaos. Like there's chaos throughout this administration on issue after issue after issue. There's chaos here in terms of the tariffs. But we do know the price will go up on everything. Price will go up on the essentials. I don't know if the lamb comes from here in America or whatever does, but even American prices go up because a lot of that stuff is imported as well. So what is this? Plain and simple, it's a tax increase on capital region families. When they attend a restaurant like Yono's, and when they go to the grocery store and buy goods, or go to the gas station and fill up. Our restaurants can't stockpile ingredients. They spoil. So he can't say, some people say, I'm going to buy 6 cases of beer because beer prices are going up. The beer served at Yono's will go up. Not because of the beer, but because the aluminum has a tariff on it, and a lot of our aluminum comes from Canada. So they can't stockpile in advance. They just got to go with the flow, and the flow is getting worse and harder for a hard-working man like our owner here at Yono's. But it's not just Yono's. It's not just restaurants. Other Albany businesses are affected. We're lucky to be joined, as I said, by Latham Pool, 300 workers here in the capital region, facing massive cost increases that could devastate their business. Here, the tariffs from Canada make a difference. In the capital region, we are more affected than most other places because of our proximity to Canada. That means more imports from Canada. It also means fewer tourists from Canada. All kinds of problems because of the Canadian influence. Latham estimates that about 15 to 20% of their materials are sourced from other countries. Aluminum, that's in a pool, steel, vinyl, that goes into pool liners and pool covers, and that's going to raise the cost at Latham. But even worse, Trump's trade war from Canada has caused our friends to the north to impose a 25% retaliatory tariff on American goods. So that disadvantages their products for sale in Canada. And Latham has a good Canadian market. Again, its proximity to the capital region always helps. Small business owners across the capital region are feeling scared, they're feeling helpless, and we're already seeing the impacts. In March, just before the tariffs came into effect, but people were anticipating them, 100,000 workers were laid off at small businesses like Latham Pool. That number will inevitably go up unless we can repeal these tariffs ASAP. If it continues, we're going to see an economic disaster here in upstate New York on a scale we haven't seen for a long time. We cannot let this continue. It's time to end Trump's tariff tax once and for all. It's hurting over 34 million small businesses in America, including restaurants, small manufacturers, and, of course, the families that I mentioned. So, when the Senate returns next week, I and my colleagues will force a vote on a resolution to end this trade war. Senator Kaine of Virginia, Senator Wyden of Oregon, and myself are leading sponsoring a repeal of the emergency powers that allowed the president to impose this tax unilaterally. He didn't get Congress's okay, said it's an emergency. Well, he's creating a much worse emergency with the tariff tax than what he thinks is an emergency of too many imports into America. Earlier this month, to show you this has a good chance, we need Republican votes, you need 51. But Senator Kaine brought a similar resolution up about Canada to repeal just the Canadian tariffs. And it got 4 Republican votes, and it passed. So it's bipartisan. And I am also sending a letter to Speaker Johnson and saying, put the bill on the floor of the House. And I'm asking all of we have 7 Republican congressmen here from New York. I'm asking all 7 to go to Johnson and say, put the bill on the floor, and then vote to repeal it. And that has particular emphasis on Congresswoman Stefanik, because she has a district that has such a large border with Canada, and so it has particular impact on her district. And if these 6 or 7 went to Johnson and said, put it on the floor, he'd be under real pressure to do it. And there are other congressmen, Republicans throughout the country that are doing it. So that's the first thing we're doing. Second, when the reconciliation bill comes up, I had an amendment that said repeal all the tariffs if the price of groceries goes up. We will bring that to the floor of the Senate when reconciliation comes up sometime in May. Third, to show you there's bipartisan support, Senator Cantwell has a bill, along with Senator Grassley, she's a Democrat, he's a Republican, of Iowa, saying that no new tariffs can be in place unless Congress ratifies them. Who's in charge of tariffs? Well, Congress is in charge, but the executive power has ability to impose them on, quote, an emergency basis unless Congress says no. So Cantwell's bill says no, it has to go through us, emergency basis or not. And we believe the administration's claim of an emergency is not justified. Okay? All right? So, we are doing all of these things. We need bipartisan support, but we hope families, businesses, restaurants, and everybody else in the capital region will let their Republican, even their local, even your assembly member, even your state senator, not these folks here, they're on our side, but Republican assemblymen and state senators know. Let your town councilmen know. Let it bubble up how bad this Trump tariff tax is for our entire country. You know what Trump said? He said if prices go up, he says, I don't care. Well, I want to tell President Trump, I do care. And as minority leader, I'm going to do everything I can to get rid of these tariffs. We need to save Albany's small businesses and restaurants from Trump's tariff war. We need to save Albany's families from Trump's tariff war. Time is short. The permanent damage to our economy is real already. People who've been laid off may never be hired back. Some of the prices may never go down. May never go down back to where they were. And even the people who lost in IRAs in the stock market, Lord knows what happens, because the markets are very concerned with the uncertainty and chaos that Trump has brought. So with that, I want to call on Dominic Pernamo to speak, then Mark Egan, then Scott Rajeski. Okay? So, Dominic.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. I'd like to begin by taking a moment to thank Leader Schumer for being such a strong advocate for restaurants. I can say that without certainty, that if it wasn't for Leader Schumer's diligent efforts to make PPP work for restaurants, and for spearheading the effort to create the Restaurants Act after COVID, we would not be standing here in this restaurant today. So, thank you, Leader.
And so, can I just say something? Well, go ahead. I was going to say, don't give up. We got this done for restaurants during COVID. We can get it done not only for restaurants, but for everything else during this Trump tariff tax. Thanks.
Thank you,
That's a
Leader.
good point.
The proposed retaliatory tariffs are disruptive and detrimental to all facets of the restaurant and food service industry, an industry that accounts for $1.6 trillion, or roughly 4% of the entire GDP of the United States. 1 in 10 jobs in the U.S., 15.1 million in total, is in the food service industry, making it the nation's second largest private sector employer. Yet the proposed retaliatory tariffs on imports from key trading partners like Canada, Mexico, and China threaten to destabilize this vital sector, which has struggled to regain its footing since the COVID-19 pandemic. These tariffs will make it harder and more expensive to source the high-quality ingredients and goods our guests have cherished for nearly 4 decades, driving up costs to the tune of $12.1 billion and disrupting supply chains worldwide. The restaurant industry is uniquely vulnerable to supply chain disruptions due to our reliance on perishable products, some costing hundreds of dollars per pound. Ingredients like fresh produce, seafood, and specialty items must be turned around in as little as 48 to 72 hours to meet stringent health code standards and deliver the qualities our guests expect. Uninterrupted flow through our ports is essential to ensure freshness and safety. The proposed tariffs on key imports with trading partners like Canada and Mexico will slow this critical supply chain, risking $2 billion in spoiled goods and threatening public health. For an industry already battered by post-COVID challenges, these unnecessary tariffs could be catastrophic, driving up costs and endangering the 15.1 million jobs we support. We urge the administration to exempt food and beverage products from the tariffs.
The National Restaurant Association across the country is trying to get that done.
That's correct.
So this is not just this is an effort that's nationwide.
Mm-hmm. The restaurant industry has endured relentless challenges over the past 5 years: supply chain breakdowns, labor shortages, and soaring inflation. Tariffs could deliver a devastating blow, potentially forcing closures and jeopardizing millions of jobs. Unlike other sectors, the food industry maintains a near-balanced trade profile, with a minimal trade deficit compared to the broader 970 billion U.S. trade gap. Targeting food and beverage imports is a misstep that punishes an industry already on the ropes. Restaurants are more than just commerce. They are the heart and soul of any community. They're a place for us to gather, to share, to communicate, and to engage. We are the last light left on Main Street. They are often the first step of young people looking to join the workforce. Restaurants are the largest employers of marginalized people, the single largest employer of single mothers, of immigrants. It offers the largest access to second chance employment for those looking to rebuild their lives after being rehabilitated during incarceration. It offers a wonderful opportunity for our military veterans to assimilate back to the workforce after following their calling, protecting our nation. We urge the administration to exempt food and beverage products from these tariffs. Doing so will stabilize costs, preserve access to essential ingredients like produce and meat, and protect the livelihoods of 15.1 million American workers. If the administration is truly committed to safeguarding American jobs and strengthening the economy, eliminating these tariffs is a critical step to securing the future of the food service industry, one of America's most resilient and cherished sectors.
Great job, Dominic.
Thank you, Mayor.
Dominic would be not only is he a great restaurateur, but he'd be a great speaker across the country on restaurants. Now we have, next in line to speak is Mark Egan from the Capital Region Chamber. Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader Schumer, for putting a spotlight on such a critical issue. I think all Americans have seen firsthand the impact of the uncertainty of tariffs is having on our economy, and not just here in the United States, but impacting countries across the globe. Many countries that have been amongst our strongest allies now see the U.S. as a threat. And as mentioned by the Senator and by Dominic, some countries have now responded with retaliation tariffs. We saw the impact on the stock market. Higher tariffs can lead to inflation, a slowdown in consumer spending, and possibly a recession. Increased tariffs directly impact the competitiveness of U.S. manufacturing. Manufacturers' import of raw materials represents 56% of all imports. The Capital Region is home to more than 900 manufacturers, and our manufacturing employment is at a 22-year high. The Center for Economic Growth serves as the manufacturing extension partnership for the Capital Region. Our manufacturing solutions teams works with small to mid-sized manufacturers to help them increase their productivity and their profitability. And we don't want the jobs of local residents to be impacted by tariff policies enacted by the White House. We're grateful that the administration has done a 90-day pause on tariffs increases to most countries as the administration negotiates fair tariff agreements with these individual countries. Businesses need to know what to expect, and it's harmful to have the on-again, off-again tariffs. So we urge the pause to be extended if more time is needed to have a well-thought-out policy that won't hurt our economy and raise costs for all Americans. As the Senator said, simply put, tariffs are a tax paid by businesses and ultimately passed on to customers. Whether you're a manufacturer buying a component, a restaurant purchasing food or supplies, or a family getting an item for your home or groceries for your table, increased tariffs put the U.S. at a competitive disadvantage.
Well done, Mark. Thank you. And now, of course, we have Scott Majeski, President and CEO of Latham Pool, one of the manufacturing industries we're so proud of here in the Capital Region.
Thank you, Senator
for the good
Schumer.
work, Scott.
So thank you, everyone, for attending here today. A little bit of background of Latham. We are the world's largest designer, manufacturer, and marketer of in-ground swimming pools. We operate in Canada, the U.S., Australia, New Zealand, and we've established a global supply chain over the years with our diversified base. Domestically, we have 25 manufacturing facilities paying high-priced jobs, engineering positions, 1,300 people located in the U.S. that we employ directly, with 3 facilities here in New York State employing over 300 folks. We buy probably about $200 million of goods domestically here, but as Senator Schumer said, 15 to 20% of what we have to buy are imported goods because there's the capacity and capability to not exist maybe in the U.S. supply chain. Buying from overseas did give us a nice cost advantage, and that's going to disappear as a result of the tariffs that are out there right now. We've had the luxury of being a large manufacturer with a strong balance sheet to pre-buy goods, buy ahead, bring stuff in to kind of beat the tariffs. But eventually, as everyone said here today, it will most likely result in price increases going out there for what is a very high consumer interest price product. We're happy to operate here, and with the facilities we have in the Canadian market as well, it hurts our cross-border trade opportunities as well. We've created an ecosystem where we use the Canadian operations and our upstate New York operations to ship goods back and forth between the two countries, and that's going to have an impact on us as well. And I was sharing with some folks earlier, I was in Canada last week to go up and spend some time with our customers, our employees, and look, it's a difficult situation, but for us as a large manufacturer, we can produce those goods there locally, and it does help us a little bit. I think one last thing that's important for you guys to know about Latham, we also have probably over 5,000 dealers in the United States. If you look at what a small dealer is for us, it's a mom and pop business. They might employ 2, 4, maybe 20 individuals, but you start thinking about the number of indirect employees that are impacted by what we do. It's probably over 20 to 25,000 small business owners, much like Dom and the business he runs here. So any and all help we could get would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
I don't know if you're going to put a pool in the middle of the And one other point I forgot to mention about the Holy Father. So when he came to New York initially, I spent 2 days with him. And it was so clear what a beautiful, holy, wonderful man he was. It just shone through in an amazing way. I just forgot to mention that. Questions on the subject of tariffs and manufacturing and restaurants? Yes, sir.
So the impact seems really clear on everybody here. I'm curious from your perspective as somebody from the federal level, is there anything that the state can be doing right now to insulate these parties that are going to be hurt by these tariffs?
Well, Governor Hochul in the legislature, we have, of course, Senator Fahey and Assembly Member Romero here. They're going to do everything they can, but when it has such a huge impact and state budgets are limited, even if they do everything they can, it's not going to be enough to cover the gap. This is a federal problem. It deserves a federal solution. Yes?
On the subject of the resolution that you're introducing, from my understanding of how it's been explained, that it is specific to the tariffs that the president has announced now, rescinding that emergency order. Understand that there's also been some talk in Congress about wholesale removing the presidential ability
Yes.
to control
The bill,
tariffs. Do you think that should be
yes, I
done?
mentioned that, yes. The bipartisan bill, of which I'm a co-sponsor, led by Senator Cantwell, a Democrat of Washington State, and Senator Grassley, a Republican of Iowa, says any future tariff must be enacted by Congress. So it does just what you're asking. So we have 3 different things. 1, the bill to repeal. 2, the motion I'll put on the floor, no tariffs if grocery prices go up on reconciliation. And 3, the Grassley-Cantwell bill. Other questions? Okay. Everyone all right? Good. Thank you all for being here. This is really an important issue. Thank you.
We should take a picture with them holding the signs.
Yes, me too. I'll hold the sign. Yeah.
Thank you for that response, Senator.
Yes.
State, we've been getting that question a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Here's, let's go in front of the, let's get, yeah, can we move this? Let's move this over.
I'll take the big side.